Every time. You know it's gonna be fire whenever they like playing with the everything going in there. It didn't know. Yeah. Uh-huh. Didn't know. Yeah. I don't like that start anyway. Bring everything into your favor. Honoring your thoughts by bringing everything into your favor. Learning how to not use self-talk. Learning not to use the old aspects of using the old ways or the old narrative of self-talk is going to be one of those major keys in honoring your thoughts. Honoring your thoughts is going to be the major key, but understanding and honoring your thoughts is similar like that childlike innocence and not in childlike thought. As I do it again. Understanding that we are the creators. It's an easier said than done process that I've learned. Like some people are like, "Ooh, I'm a creator," or "I'm a god," or "I'm a goddess." But as the god and the goddess, you have to create every aspect that is going to be used. As I send out all this to people, everybody again, to let everybody know we got new joints. Just to be sure. All right, cool. We got everybody in there. Everybody I'm gonna send it to for now. All right, cool. Usual suspects. But honoring our thoughts, sometimes we honor the thoughts of our identities. Identity, one thing that I've learned, like just in that overall healing process for myself, is your identity will leave you the most constricted. Maintaining a false identity is what leaves us constricted. I learned that most of the constrictions were in my life were based on trying to maintain an identity or maintaining the idea of the identity of an individual that was in my life, i.e. my mother, i.e. my father, i.e. my pops, i.e. the friends that were in my life, i.e. these aspects. It's all based on an identity. Think about something as simple as if you got that really, 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 really strong friend, like they're outspoken, they don't back down from fights, they're all of these aspects. They're the realest friend that you have. They have the ride or die complex. Why are they your friend? Why are they your friend? If we go deep down into the aspects of ourselves, everything being that focal point to teach us something about ourselves, we will not get stuck on a lot of the afraid of confrontation or afraid to not say anything. As natural, we like to keep everything in balance. Going back to that honoring our thoughts. How many things, I'm gonna ask a couple questions. How many things, instances, events in your life, in your adolescent life, and there's a reason I'm saying your adolescent life, your adolescent aspect, do you blame or have you implanted the white man or the government being the fault for that? How many in your life, how many aspects in your adolescent sense use the implant that the white man, the government, it's niggas ain't shit, it's bitches ain't shit, my mom ain't shit, this is why mothers ain't shit, because the dad went in the home. How many things have you placed this implanted memory into that place to help you keep moving forward, to maintain your identity? Because that's the main thing that we usually do every time we try to maintain this. This is who I am. This is who I am. I'm a black person in America. What if there was no America? I'm a black man in America. I'm a black man in the United States. What if there wasn't any? What were you before the United States? We come from Africa. We come from Kemet. What were you before Kemet? What were you before Africa? Ooh, I'm a Moor. So yeah, we moved up there and went through Spain and all in Europe. We were the first Europeans and all that stuff. Okay, what were you before any of that shit? What were you before that? Take that into your aspects of your childlike mindset. What were you before you were taught to think? You were given the what to think. What were you before you were given the what to think in your life? These are the types of questions. These are the types of questions that will cause the utmost discomfort. Oh, shit. These are the questions that are going to cause the utmost discomfort. Most questions are going to cause the utmost discomfort. But why? Why do we allow questions like this? Why do we allow ourselves to only ask certain questions? Why do we allow ourselves to only ask certain questions? Why do we allow ourselves only to ask certain questions to make us feel good, to keep us feeling good? Why do we allow ourselves to move into the complex of only being asked questions and answering questions that make us seem more than what, to maintain that identity? It's all based on that identity. It's all based on that mask. It's all based on this aspect of this mask that we carry on and where that keeps us constricted. It's going to keep you constricted. Comfort kills. All this week, the last 2 weeks, we've been getting into your comfort being killing and that code of conduct. That mask, that identity you wear comes with a code of conduct. It comes with restrictions automatically. Most of the things that you got going, the things that we put into our lives, those implants, those thought forms, these ideas, these programs that we put into our own head to make us feel good about doing something or to complain, we don't feel like we don't feel like we're good enough. We doubt ourselves, so we need to have a reason. We need to have a reason to exist. If I say this and I agree with this, because this is how we reverse engineer the cult mindset. We reverse engineer the cult mentality when we stay with those identities. Staying in that identity, giving it a philosophy, giving it a mission statement, that code of conduct, that code of ethics, that line by line handbook that you're going to follow, it leaves you in restriction automatically. But where did you learn that from? What aspects did you learn that from? Why did you implant that why did you make that an implant into your thought process? That's going to be that question that's going to tear everything down. You did it based on good and bad, because we have these thought processes based on good and bad, protagonist, antagonist, negative and positive. I can look at something. I saw a post yesterday that was in that was in a group, and somebody dropped in there. They dropped a picture of the Virgin Mother, or the light version of Mama. Right there. The light version of her. And then somebody dropped in that aspect and said, great. Like, because the caption on the meme said, somebody kneeling in front of two bags of concrete and some paint. Slavery. And then somebody said back to it, my man said back to it, he was like, you have, and I know it triggered some people. He was like, you have candles and figurines and plastic figures around your house that you sit there and do the same shit to. And I looked at it and I was like, ooh, shit. I was like, ooh, he's kind of right. I don't see a wrong in what he's saying. What he was saying was right. But somebody came, like some other people came back and said, nah, it's a difference because we know we're talking to him. And I remember Bobby Hemming was like, you can get the same power out of the same thing with Jesus is the same thing. You can take Mickey Mouse, and if you concentrate on Mickey Mouse enough, Mickey Mouse can have all the power that you put into Jesus or whatever figurine that you use. So it made me really think. It was like, I have no reason to need the identity of something over here being something that I need to be like, see, if I was doing that, I'd be lost, and where I'm at, I'm found. I don't care. I truly don't care. I have compassion in that aspect. That's the childlike innocence. Your kids do not give a fuck. If you have children, they don't care. When you were a kid, you didn't give a fuck. You did not give a shit. That's childlike innocence. You did not give a shit. If you said that you can fly, can nobody tell you nothing? If you said you can fly, you can swim you can swim in the air, all of these aspects, nothing can stop you from asking. You be like, you know what? Yeah, I can do it. Nothing can take that out of your mindset, period. If you said that you had a fort in your room, or you took a bunch of dead, like for me and my brothers and sisters, we took like when the storms were coming, the trees would fall and shit. Yeah. Like this is what it looks like to me. I don't care what you're thinking. This is what it looks like to me. I wish I would walk up to my nephew and be like, what are you doing? And he got the basket, he got the clothes basket turned over on top of my niece and was like, she's in jail. I be like, that's not jail, that's a laundry basket. No, it's the jail right now. I be like, me going back and forth with a kid is the same equivalent for me looking for an argument. I'm having an argument with other children. This is the adolescent mindset. The first part of coming into our works, or the hidden, in the hidden aspect, the occult aspect, that's the inner child. That's Kronos coming to swallow every one of his kids. Sir, I'm like, yes, it's a jail. All right, it's a jail. In that point, you be like, what is her bail? My nephew will say, what is her bail? Her bail. Like, how do I get her out of jail? I'll be like, he'll be like, 2 bags of Cheetos. I'll be like, all right, here's 4 bags of Cheetos so she don't go back. I got her. She good. She out of jail. You got to give into that aspect. But our mindset gets stuck in you arguing with the other children on the playground, or you arguing with the other kids, or you trying to argue with these kids on the playground, other kids on the playground, which are just other shadows of you. They have their they have their shadows that they have created their imaginations with into their space. You do it long enough, you allow the emotional channel to come through, and that's how the innocence of a child is how you created this shit. And right or wrong, good or bad, having these aspects. That's the inner child. Kronos swallowing his kids. Mother Sophia, yeah, just like in Hook. Mother Sophia, the womb, the angry ass womb, and then creating that nigga, creating this space, and then you getting crumbled up. All of that is the wonderment of the philosophy of the inner child of the subconscious. All of that is the wonderful philosophy of the subconscious. Everything that we were given from the master teachers when they were historicalizing it for us, Dr. John Henry Clark's, Ben Joseph and them, and then coming into Bobby Hemmett, Phil Valentine, and they were bringing you into the space of being able to learn how to analyze as the child would analyze, as a child looks at it. A child does not look at anything in that space and doesn't see anything flawed with it. It sees no flaw. It sees nothing wrong. It sees nothing right. It sees nothing good. It sees nothing bad. It sees as it serves it and as it does not serve it. If it serves my purpose, let me honor my thought by creating this to serve my purpose. Let me see how many ways I can make this serve my purpose and be in my favor. That's the mindset. But due to that adolescent aspect, those childhood wounds, the detachment, the jealousy, the insecurities, your mom yelling, your mom telling you ever since you were 5, or here's even better yet, your dad walked out on your dad or your mom walked out, or whoever walked the fuck out, and you like 6 months old, you can't express your words or feelings. You crying, daddy, come back. You crying, mama, come back. But no one can understand you in that space. That was the first memory. What I've noticed for a lot of people when I'm dealing with clients now, is when we come into this aspect, they usually start at 3. They usually start at 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those are the first ages that they'll start dealing with, like going through inner child therapy. But we forget and we neglect from 1 to 2, from when you come out the womb, from when you come out that portal into this space, you online. You are open to the world. Everything from that point that gets absorbed into your memory, those are the things that are laying the framework that's laying your framework. Pulling up these memories, that's going to be that key, because those are that framework is what causes the emotional channels. The emotional channels is your adolescent phase. In between you being 12 and 18. We'll say 12 and 18. That's the adolescent phase. If you didn't go to school, like things that affected those are the chaos catalysts. So let's say you dropped out in the 6th grade, or you didn't go to school in the 6th grade, or something happened, or you didn't go to school in this. The furthest you got in education was the 8th grade. The furthest you got in education was the 8th grade. Now you've been holding on to, you never finished school, and you never finished school from the 8th grade. So on top of everything else, the icing on the cake was 8th grade. You never got to finish your education. Imagine if you don't deal with that trauma or that point. Everything that you're going to do is going to be based upon that one thought. You didn't finish the 8th grade. Why didn't you finish the 8th grade? You never answer the question why you didn't finish that grade. You never go back and find the reason or get that therapy or get that healing aspect of why you didn't finish the 8th grade. You have kids. Your child makes it to the 8th grade. Your child's in school. You're going to base the foundation of how you raise your child based on that one memory and correspondence. That is going to be your base memory. You didn't finish the 8th grade. You've carried that same thought process all the way through, but you've been carrying that 8th grade thing as something bad happened to you. You not finishing the 8th grade probably was the best thing to happen to you. This is taking ourselves out of the good and bad, because a lot of times when we're inside of a space with ourselves, even when we become, I'm so enlightened and I'm so woke, we'll put ourselves, we still looking at shit as good and bad. There's no good and bad. There's only positive and negative. There's no good and bad. There's only positive and negative. It's only two polarities. The negative is the one that absorbs and the positive is the one that refracts. 2 points. Everything serves that purpose within that space of the negative or the absorbing point, and then you have the one that refracts or the end of that other end of that spectrum. Everything is synonymous to that spectrum. Us being the melanated ones, the originators, the creators, we're not the most negative point. We're the middle point. You're coming to the middle point to transition. You're not coming to, ooh, I'm going to choose over here to be all this. Because think about our memory complexes. Any good memory we like to share. Any negative memory, the negative memories, we attune to negative memories, negative thoughts. It goes into that negative memory bank. The positive memories and the positive thoughts, relationship going great, relationship going fine, dandy, great is going good. Whole relationship going good, friendship going good, job going good. So everything that you are going to tie to that is going to be good. It's going to be great. Soon as your job stops going bad, soon as your job start going bad, you like, man, it's the white man and this, and this. What does the job represent to you? What does the job represent to you? For me, when I realized why I was getting so upset at my jobs, and I wasn't like, I would get to a certain position, but then I was like, I had this thing about being noticed in the physical aspect. And I was like, wait, I'm not mad at my job for not noticing me. I'm not mad at this physical manifestation, this dynamic that I've created for not noticing me. The only reason that I created this dynamic to notice me is because I did not get noticed by my father. I didn't get noticed by my pops. Hell, up until I turned 12 and I met my father, for the first couple of meetings with my father, I was like, why didn't, like, my mindset was so angry at my mother, and I'm dispersing this energy all around. I'm like, so why didn't you fight for me? Why did this and this? And why this and this? And why didn't this? I had a whole bunch of fucking questions until my aunt came and gave me, she was like, he wrote all these letters. He said, wait till you turn 12. My pops was into the mystery systems and all that, the occult thing, the occult aspects, and I didn't even know he was into the occult and into these things, the metaphysical aspect. I didn't know he was into those things until after he transitioned. A lot of the things that are going to happen to you are going to be basically after you transition. That means after you have your first, second, after you have that ego death, that's when things are going to start happening. You are not going to have anything happen to you while you still over here, while you still trying to, I'm going to act in the identity that, okay, cool, it's just another identity. So now that I'm eating extra healthy and I'm meditating every day and I'm doing all this other shit, yeah, I'm woke, I'm conscious. No, you're not. You're aware of the situation. Yes, you are woke. Yes, you are conscious. Consciousness simply means awareness. Cool, that's great. But what you're still identifying based on an identity. You can tell when individuals are stuck within an identity. I'm just looking at it. When you're stuck within an identity, you stay stuck within a constriction. Being stuck on an identity is mostly related to abandonment issues. The things that made you feel abandoned or not good enough. Those are the things that usually are attached to the first. Those are the first layers or the first Gorilla Glue stream strips that are put into your identity. Most of the time, I noticed that for myself. Whenever that attachment, or that not being that I had those attachment issues. I wasn't attached to anything. I wasn't attached to anything because I didn't know my own lineage. I did not know who the fuck I was when I turned 12. It was like the biggest unconscious ego death ever for a 12-year-old. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I was like, nigga, this shit's happening. I don't know who I am anymore. I had my first crisis. It was my first ever true crisis. And that was all streamed. All that was streamed into the first day, right after the first steps of your emotional adolescence. When you come into the adolescent phase, I already felt, but this is the key. I needed that to happen because I already felt, and I had to admit this to myself, just when you be honest with yourself, I had to admit that I was like 6 or 7, I felt different. At age 6 and 7, I felt different as hell. I didn't feel like the other kids. I didn't feel like my nieces, and I didn't feel like my cousins. I didn't feel like my sisters. I didn't feel like my brothers. I had this deep inherent thought in my mind that this wasn't me in that space. I was like, that's not me. So when that crisis happened at 12, that was my chaos catalyst. I needed that answer. I kept speaking that answer, but I wasn't honoring the thought. I felt like I was too young to honor the thought. I couldn't ask the question. I couldn't just simply act like, hey, mom, I don't feel like I belong here. Or I didn't know these aspects. And these are the things that you are having to learn all over. These are the things of you learning yourself all over again. It wasn't good or bad. It was a necessary part to spark something within you. If you didn't have nothing, even if you had the best relationship with your parents, the best family ever, you still got some work to do because there's still something inside of you that you still want to explore. Even if you had the best life ever, you could have been a whole suburb kid. But still in that same spot, the suburb kid can't wait. They go to public school, they're in school, they looking at the kids with fucking Jordans on and all these fucking that nigga got a do-rag on, or oh shit, that bitch got all these types of shit. You want to experience that on that other end. That's the spark. That's what the chaos catalyst is, or the trauma is going to do. And almost when I was like, nigga, that made sense to me now. Everything based on the attachment aspect, based on the first level of your identity. You trying to maintain an identity in between two different spaces. You trying to maintain an identity on this side, and then on the other side of yourself, you're like, okay, cool, no mask. But I keep saying that the universe, the higher power, the most high, whatever you are in tune with for you, is not going to give to what you want to be. It's going to give to who you are. It's always going to give to who you are. Your space is the reflection of your opportunities. Your opportunities are a reflection of how you create the code of conduct to your standards. Your standards are going to set the tone for everything else and how you're going to do the work. How you're going to do your work. We've been given that mindset of like, oh, I'm from the hood, so I gotta be the hood. I gotta stay in the hood. I gotta have that hood mentality. I gotta be a real nigga. I gotta be a bad bitch. I gotta do this. The only way out is to be a model. The only way out for a woman to be out is to being a model or marrying some rich nigga. Or the only way to get out is playing ball or to go be a rapper. Or you got these preset identities. But they didn't create those identities. They didn't create those. They can't create anything. So you got to go back into yourself and like, what made you tap into that aspect? What's the science behind it? Everything is a science. Everything can be displayed as a science in that aspect of the math with it. But if you get stuck in this identity, you're now going to be confronting everything based on the identity. That's why I was saying, that's when I make that thought, is like, most of the thoughts that we honor from an unhealed state are based in an identity that we are holding on to. Most of the thoughts that we honor are based on identity, based in identity. In the identity, the key feature to know that you are living through an identity is that you are not going to take, you will always find a way not to take accountability. You will not take responsibility. When you're wearing that mask, you will always be able to say, or you'll always be stuck in saying what is actually connected to correspondence with what your mother and your father said. Because of this right here, I can't hold on to shit that happened to me when I was 8 years old and be saying that same shit now. Do you know how old, do you know how much you would age holding on to some shit that you have to keep putting energy into that, and then you can't be in the current state? That's why niggas be looking old right now. On top of that layer is and everything on top of that is to fill that space in, that filler. You've made everything based on this filler aspect. This is why whenever it comes time to, you'll know when you're moving in your authentic self outside of limitations, you ain't got no limitations anymore. You'll know when you're moving inside your authentic self because you don't feel the need to explain your shit. You don't feel the need to explain yourself. You'll know you're in that healed space when you know you feel no need to explain yourself. You can state what you need to state. You can state what you need to state, put everything that connects to you making your statement, and you can move forward. I had a pre-client in my inbox, I want to say Wednesday, and went through her page. She said she was Oya. And the spirit said, ask her which Oya is she. I was like, okay. I'm gonna ask her what spirit is she? Which Oya is she? I was like, so which Oya are you? Are you the muddy water Oya? Or are you like the final form Oya? Or are you the one in the middle? Which Oya are you? She was like, there's only one Oya. What you mean? And I was like, no, there isn't. There's like multiple levels of Oya. That's why I said it. Each deity has a growth process in their own self. So like, nah, see. And I could see her becoming defensive. But I already knew she was going to be defensive by the first question that she asked inside of the inbox. So it was time to transmute and play with some energy. But you don't have to explain yourself into that aspect because you're always in a constant state to learn. One that's in a constant state of learning has no time. What are you complaining for? It's only when you want to stop or maintain that phase that you want to constrict yourself into your own space. You are the one that's oppressing yourself. You're the one that's shutting yourself down. You're the one that's keeping yourself from doing the things that you want to do because you're still stuck in that comfort monologue. It's easy to find it's easy. Everything is true. There is no such thing as a lie because you can make anything true based on your experience, based on how you make it work for you. So if somebody comes up to me and it's like so it's like there's just certain aspects that you don't kick into anymore. Once you are past that adolescent phase, the most important part is getting through that adolescent phase, understanding those wounds, those shadows from back here in this space right here when you was that child, those inner child, those avoidance issues, the neglects, the abandonments, the abandonment, the neglect, the avoidance, and all the aspects of the traumas that are layered within these things. Until you understand those shadows, you'll never get out of the adolescent phase. When I look at some people when they're dropping off information, I can tell they're still stuck within the adolescent phase. I can still tell that they're still stuck within the adolescent phase. I know because I was stuck in that point in time in that adolescent phase. It was so in earlier on, like whenever I would speak, down to like how I'm looking at how I would speak to the camera, what I would say, how I would look. I would be worried about my position. I would be worried about so many little things that had nothing to do with what I was delivering. because I was still trying to hold on to an identity. And then I noticed that the longer that I was trying to stay stuck in an identity, I would try to connect or use. I was always aspiring to be like someone else. And then I noticed when I stopped trying to be like everybody else in the first wave of myself, I noticed the conversations would change. Like something as simple as a conversation would be, when I stopped trying to act like everybody else in the high school phase, and I would meet girls, I would meet people, or let's say I meet girls, they were like, "You're not like normal. You're not like other guys." I was like, "Am I supposed to be?" Nah, it's just refreshing. It'll always be that same refreshing thing. When you're not living in an identity, it's the most refreshing feeling ever. It is a constant sense of refreshment. When you're not living inside of an identity, trying to maintain an identity, it is the most refreshing feeling and like constant euphoric feeling. You know when you're falling into an identity or into a space because it's still triggering that channel, that emotional channel from your adolescent aspect, that shadow that you ain't got dealt with yet, that attachment issue that you got, that attachment issue that you haven't worked on, that avoidance issue that you haven't worked on, that neglect issue that you haven't worked on. Because your neglect turns into your procrastination, your BS, your BSing, your inconsistencies. Your avoidance turns into lack of understanding, the inability to be intimate. And when we're talking about intimacy, sex, the sacred energy exchange, all of your energy is sacred. So when we're talking about not being intimate, it's not being in tune with your own energy or how you use your energy, or how you use your energy, how you monitor your energy, how you protect your energy. That's what I mean by not being intimate. When you're intimate, the aspect of being intimate, the intimacy I see is being in tune with your own energy, being involved with your own energy. But if somebody is suffering from neglect issues, they have a problem in dealing with and being in tune with their own energy. You'll always find yourself into a certain space. One example of neglect, one example of the neglect shadow is when you're sitting there inside of that space and you find yourself trying to fit or form to everybody within that space to stay within the narrative of that trend. How many relationships have you had either back then or now, even in this current state, where they were shadows and not mirrors? How many relationships were you in where you were a shadow and then and we don't get into the aspects of what you being a mirror. In every relationship, you are a mirror. The more whole you become, the more unfractured the mirror becomes. The clearer the vision comes. The more layers that you deal with, the clearer this image on this mirror becomes. Before you go into this becoming the mirror, I want my twin flame, I want my divine union, I just want this. You got to address these shadows, because those shadows are what are going to leave that mirror image fractured. You ain't got no enemies, period. I ain't got no enemies. I have no competition. I have no enemies. I have none of these aspects in my space or in my life that can stop me other than me. I'm in control of every dynamic aspect of my life. I am in control and responsible for every dynamic aspect of my life. To say that, at the first time that I have a client say that, it's almost overwhelming. The overwhelming feeling is, oh shit, the thought forms and everything that's in that shadow has now been, oh shit, everything in your shadow is now awake. Everything inside of your shadow is now awake. And it's like, okay, cool. How are we going to use this thought form? This is the depth in you honoring your thoughts. This is why when you're doing negative self-talk to yourself, like I got, or I want, or I got to go to work, or I want to do this, or I'm going to try to do this. Those aspects is how your trauma's gonna feed. That's how your shadows feed. You got to rewire you got to rewire the brain. You got to rewire this whole system. So going into the aspects of your shadow, somebody that's based on neglect, that's never been in tune with their intimate aspect of themselves, they're always going to be in a certain sense of being literally a shadow to somebody in a relationship. This is why I say don't fuck the help. They're going to be a shadow to this individual in a relationship until they build an identity, because they're only comfortable in building a certain identity. I built multiple identities to exist within a space. You build multiple identities just to exist in one space while you're learning yourself. So the identity, none of this shit's good or bad. These are all aspects of tool. Once you understand what it's for, it's everything's a tool. You understand how to work it and not let it work you. See, we get stuck in the identity complex. These identity complexes. I'm black and I'm black, and we were slave. I was never a fucking slave. The only time I was a slave is when I was a slave to my behaviors and my emotions. The only time that you are a slave, is when you are a slave to your emotions and to the traumas, the traumatic catalysts that create those expressions of those feelings. That's why they say, that's when motherfuckers be like, that's when I remember when I first saw it, it was like, they didn't capture slaves and bring slaves across on that boat from Africa. They brought scientists and they brought scientists and astronomers and sailors and kings and queens and all this good shit. Yes, that's what they bought. So you didn't start as a fucking slave. What happened was your memory, your emotions that you didn't understand, because what were you before you were a king and a queen? What were you before you were a queen? What were you before you were a queen and a king? You were a god or a goddess, going to the androgynous aspect. You were a titan, you was a chaos being, you was an ancient one. You can go all the way back to what the fuck you were. The beginning of all things. That's what you were. From the dark came the light. That's what the fuck you were. So apparently, as you were learning the expressions of each thing as you came down, through expression, you learned emotion. It's similar. This is the childlike phase. When you're in the child phase, you learned expression. You learned your emotions through expressions. You learn how to navigate your expressions through your emotions. Your mother, your father learned how to navigate their expressions through their emotions. So the shit that happened to you, good, bad, here or there, don't fucking matter, is based on that same thought. So when you come into it, how are you honoring the thought? You're going to you dishonor yourself every time that you say, well, I came up in the hood and this happened to me in my life, and my mom lied to me about this, and my pops lied to me about this, and my family lied to me about this. They lied to me about all this, this, and this. But guess what? And then you doing all that through an emotional, all you doing out, you throwing all this out through an emotional gate. You throwing all this refracted light out into an emotional gate. And then you sit there like, nah, but it wasn't their fault. Now somebody come up to you, same frequency as that dumbass shit, and gonna tell you like, man, it wasn't your family, it wasn't your mom's fault. It wasn't your dad's fault. It wasn't their fault. It was the white man's fault. It was the government fault. See, the government came in 1962 and came through and did this act and put coke in the hood. Everything you had was a fucking choice. Everything you had was a fucking choice. Two of the greatest characters of all times right now. One is the reason that season 4 will not exist of American Gods, and the other one was Killmonger when he was in fucking Black Panther. I'd rather transition than go through this shit. I'd rather that's what the nigga said, told me with the ancestors. I'd rather die. I'd rather transition and recycle back through than go through and I have to go through that part. Nancy telling you, nigga, would you rather burn this shit down and die, nigga, and do something shit? Be released? Or would you rather go through the other shit? You can't let your emotions get in the way. This is the thing. This is when people get this emotional aspect in the way because you have not learned how to deal with your emotions. The base of your emotional channel is in the childhood development. The base of your emotions, the base of what you're creating in your space and how you're submitting that identity is based in the childlike mindset. It's based in the childlike mindset. The imprints that were put into your head. The real reason my mother don't even have to say the shit. But the true reason that my mother did not stay in New York with my pops, did not stay in New York with my father, or like tell my father she was pregnant with me. The true reason to it was because she was afraid of not being accepted. She was so afraid of not being accepted that she like created this whole thought process in her mind and came down here and met my father. That somebody that like my father was down here, came up here from Florida, and how they got together was like the meeting of them. Like it was like an arranged thing or some shit. Like, yeah, my daughter, da type shit like that. So my mother came in and submitted to that thought process. My mother been lived with that shit her whole fucking life. So with just that thought right there in her mind of not being accepted and avoiding the truth of this space and creating something outside of this aspect of a truth, not getting enough. My mother just now recently, because we're going through her healing process now. That's the only reason I can talk about it. Because me healing her is synthesizing the sequence of my healed self. It's giving me it's filling in those porous cracks of my the other aspects of me healing myself. It isn't based on me. That's all I can talk about. It's therapy. It's my mother. But coming into that space, my mother hid that example in her mind for so long that she was like, my mother last week admitted to me, she was like, I never knew, I don't know your pop. I don't know your pops. I do not know him. When I met him, he was doing things. He was always in a certain identity. All I saw was his identity of helping people and trying to make people live their life a different way. The only thing that my mother didn't realize inside of that space, I was like, oh shit, wait. So you didn't know my pops because of this, and this. And then that shit sparked something in my head. I was like, my earlier on relationships, it now makes sense. I told you once you die, that's when everything becomes clear. In my mind, I was like, wait, that's how all my relationships were. I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about that chapter in the book. There was a whole nother book missing that I didn't even know. That's how that's how I held most of my relationships. Most of our relationships are based on identity. The outside of the external aspect. It looks very, very good. But if you do not understand yourself, you have not identified yourself, you can't involve yourself or because you're going to become the shadow of this. Because that's the intimidation aspect. Ooh, this big shiny light, this new person, like a little kid with a toy. Ooh, look at this fucking toy. Then all of a sudden now you are just like when you were little and you had Megatron and fucking Optimus Prime or Ninja Turtles, Baby Alive dolls or whatever it is. You became the shadow to your doll. You became the shadow to your doll. You took on your doll took on an identity that you created for it. And you've been doing that same shit ever since. Your baby alive doll took on an identity. You became the shadow to your baby alive doll. Oh, I'm mommy. This is me. I'm mommy now. Oh no, I'm not. I'm Batman now. I'm Superman now. You took on that identity. Once you mastered changing out your identities, whenever things would happen in your space is your opportunity. You always had the opportunity to use one of these identities. So if your mother and your father were always getting in arguments, you would go in your room and you would pretend you were Batman. And you would devise an entire plan in your head to how you would get your mom out of the situation. If mom and dad's was fucking arguing and you was in there playing with your dolls, then you would emulate the argument with your dolls. You would emulate the entire argument with your dolls. That's how you dealt with the memory. That's how you dealt with the trauma. As a child, that's how you learned how to you were transmuting energy as a child. What shut it off was when you became into the adolescent phase, your adolescence, and now you had to create your own identity. Now you were responsible in creating your own identity. But what are you going to create your identity from? The same shit that you created those identities in those soundscape. The same way that you created the identity for your dolls and that pet rock, or when you was outside playing with animals and playing with the bugs and shit, all of that, that's the same way you created your identities in your adolescent state. That's why they say when a child is no longer a child, they got to put away his childish things. That means you got to put away these fucking identities. Because that's how you learned how to avoid, based on the avoidance, based on hiding avoidance, hiding neglect, hiding those wounds, you created the identity. You put on a different mask. And it worked for you. It worked for a long time. Not going to say it did not work, but it worked for a long time. I wore a lot of masks for a long time. But as I started interacting and playing with the other kids, my mask they would point out my mask and it would look stupid. Man, you look stupid wearing that mask. You look dumb. You're not a robot. You're not this. You're not this. You're not that. So that was already. So now I have something that's like my peer telling me the same shit. So now I'm keep going down. Now I keep going through this little point. Now I'm going to the middle. I'm coming to the middle point of my childhood. Now I'm coming out through the other end. What do I come out as? Take the layer of the aspects with the traumas. That's just growing up. That's just the growing up part. That's one of the layers. That's just you growing up, the environment. We ain't even got into the aspects of the traumas that were underlying to create these identities. Then you're not even got into the aspects of like the original causes to these traumas that happened to your parents in that space, and in everything that filtered in between. That's what creates your mask. That's what creates these layers. And then oh my God, I can't believe that. And now you're trying to find an identity that fits inside of a certain space because you were taught about, because everything was based on the antagonist and that protagonist approach of looking at life saying, you know what? We gotta fight, and it's their fault and it's their fault. So you always have something easily to blame it on. And you were always given that example, but you were only given an example to maintain the behavior or your habit that you already had formed. You long before that happened formed a habit. The only reason that that habit is working, or the only reason that that habit still has energy to it, is because you're now in that same space. That's why I said earlier, what I said earlier before we switched over to Link, how many things do you blame on white people? How many things do you blame on the government? You can break down the whole etymology of the word government, religion, government, the white man, all of this shit. You can blame it on them. Blame it on Asia, blame it on the Arabs, blame it on the Chink, blame it on whoever the fuck you want to blame it on. That's nice, that's fine, that's dandy. But that blame that you're putting out has a corresponding identity to it. So if I address the identity, or I looked at the science, I was thinking about the science of smoke shops and hotels. Hotels is usually owned by Indians, and fucking the hotels for niggas is usually owned by Indians, and the Arabs own the smoke shops. And I thought about it to myself. I was like, black people need to smoke and get their snacks, and then they also need a place to go because they're trying to skip out from not being at the house. They want to do something fake special and do the same three positions that they can't. They do the same three positions that they do at the house at the hotel room. But why is there always an Arab in there? Why is there always an Indian person in there? Them niggas absorbing energy. They know how to do something that your ass don't know how to do. You haven't taken the ownership to yourself yet to even do it. All they're just transmuting energy. They're points to transmute energy. That's all they are. Everything outside of you is a point to transmute energy. How you invest into that space is how you transmute your energy through it. You go to the Arab store, you transmute your energy in there. Just that same transaction that you're doing is based on maintaining a certain identity. That's why it's there. The hotel you went to, they got the Arabs, the Indian people that are running it. You do a transaction with them, you transmute your energy into that space. That's the same thought process when you talk about the white man and the government this, and the white man doing this, and the white man is horrible, and the vaccine is this. Vaccine ain't even a fucking vaccine, it's a fucking program. Oh shit, the vaccine is nothing but a fucking program. That it's an implant that you implant into your own head. I just saw a video today where Nicaragua never initiated anything. Nicaragua said, fuck COVID. They never initiated any mask, any curfews, nothing for COVID. And that whole Nicaragua is fucking COVID free. Meanwhile, all over Europe, they're reinitiating all that bullshit again. But at the same time, here in the good old US of A, they sending kids back to school. I was like, wait, what? So kids gonna be in classes wearing masks? That looks stupid as hell to me. But everything outside of you is based on how you train, how you interact with it. Motherfuckers got mad at the shit with fucking what's that nigga name? Lil Nas X, and I was like, wow. All these conscious motherfuckers is getting upset with this shit, and y'all need to go back to church. Y'all need to go right. Y'all need to go hop, skip, and skedaddle right back over into a church. Because what does that have to do with you? Stay the fuck off the plate. Stay the fuck off the plate. Having the things that you created inside of your life are to keep you in a state of comfort. Remember, we going outside of good or bad, good or bad. So good or bad doesn't exist. Take good or bad out of your fucking mind. So everything you're doing based on a state of comfort don't matter if it is good or bad. It's positive and negative. So you keep some of the most negative aspects in your life so you can maintain those certain behaviors and habits. So you don't have to deal with that shadow. The white man took your mom away. Your white man took your daddy out the house. No, your dad had a fucking choice and he made that choice. He's dealing with his choice. Or if he's avoiding the choice, then you avoiding the choice. How many have really asked their mother in a real, how many times have you asked your mother, if you've had the chance to ask your mother, or have got the stories and be analytical about your mother, have asked the real question to your mother of like, have not even asking the question to your mother, but how many have you accepted the answer your mother gave you? How many, damn, asking the question to your mother? How many have asked the question? How many have asked the question to their mother and accepted their answer? Most answers that I get are responses to that question. Someone to be like, but how can I forgive my mother? How can I forgive my mother if she can't even own up to it? It's not about her owning up to it. She said her answer out. Her answer was based on what? Was it based on neglect, avoidance? How did you feel? You felt like the answer was neglect. You felt like the answer was neglecting what you needed. Then guess what? You're now understanding your neglection issues. Do you feel like she was avoiding something? Then guess what? You now have the root to your avoidance issues. Do you feel like she was manipulative in that sense? Then guess what? You found the shadow of your manipulation issues. I don't give a fuck what the hell my mother's answer was. I know that the feeling that I felt, that was the root cause of everything else in my space. That's what I was thriving off of. The neglect of my mother giving me an answer, it kept me in a lackluster as a fuck. It kept me behaving the way that I behaved. I was wilding out here. I was wilding for no fucking reason. All because my mother, since I felt it didn't matter what my mother's answer was, I had the inherent feeling. I was dishonoring my own feeling. The only reason I could dishonor the feeling because I didn't get an answer yet. I had the feeling of neglect already. It was already present. That's what it created. It created neglect. It created a state of avoidance. It created the manipulation aspect. The longer that it went untreated, the more that it warped every time I look back at it. So now if I look at so a lot of shit never even connected to me. Like, I remember whatever, like, the dad isn't in the home because of this, and this. I was like, that ain't how it happened for me. That ain't how it happened for me. That ain't how I experienced neglect. And that's not how I experienced neglect in my life. That's not how I experienced avoidance in my life. That's not how I experienced abandonment. That's what I was trying to say. That's not how I experienced abandonment in my life. So whose idea, what implant are they trying to put into my mind to make me think in a certain way? Being honest with yourself. Even if go into the thought process, someone would be like, but black people, all the black men are in jail and moms is out here sucking dick for fucking money to take care of their kids, to get a fix or whatever. Your mother was doing that shit before. That's why she so easily went back to it. She gave you the story that I was doing what I had to do to take care of y'all. And then you carry that same thought process into your mind, and now you sitting out there being an IG model. Now you a stripper, you on IG, you out here shaking your ass for likes and follows. You out here, your pop said I did what I had to fucking do to help y'all survive. So now you out here in that mindset trying to live that lifestyle to try to understand it more. Because every time you're doing something, you're just trying to simply understand it. But since you haven't integrated with your shadow, you become the shadow to whatever that space is. That's why you got niggas out here that's why you have motherfuckers that are entertainers that are in between late 20s to early 50s that are dressed in adolescent fashion. See, they trying to fuck with our kids' heads and shit and trying to make our kids. The last time that I checked, when I was going to clubs, when I was going out to clubs, when I was going out, there was no 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 11-year-olds in the clubs that were 25 plus. So the music is not meant for the kid. The childlike mind is going to absorb whatever's brought into it. So you can sit there and make the excuse, it's the music, it's this. It's like all of these things don't make no fucking sense. Funniest thing about that. Go look at, I'm gonna actually put the video, I'm gonna download the video to my page. But they're Abba and Preach. They're the two comedian dudes. They got their podcast. They got episodes on YouTube. There's an episode that they do when I think it's like The Cut or Jubilee or one of those independent creator groups, and they had 4 men, and then they had like four forms of feminists. And they had this black girl sitting up here at the top, and they had these other girls over here. And I'm listening to them speak. I'm like, because this is what I do all day whenever in between sessions, my mind is drifting and psychoanalyzing everything. That's how I keep my mind in an analytical state. If I'm not analyzing myself, I'm learning myself through learning everything else. That's that openness of that inner child aspect. But I'm watching it, and it was like the Asian dude sitting next to the black girl. I'm building the imagery. And the Asian dude said, I was like, I was thinking in my mind, I was being stupid as hell. And I'm looking at him like, nigga, that nigga look like he can be related to Carl Jung. He like he can be related to that nigga. This motherfucker in the next 3 minutes said how and why. The black feminist girl, she was asking she was talking about rights about men hurting women and all these things. And she was like, y'all don't ask about none of our examples. And all he said was how and why. She was like, what do you mean how and why? I want to know how, by what kind of examples, and why do you stand so strong? How did you come to this conclusion, and why do you stand so strongly behind it? And she was like, the first time that it happened was when I was 16 and I got a bottle threw at me because a boy told me no. The second time it happened to me, I was in a bookstore and the only reason that the guy stopped because my husband was right of the thing. So it was like, so basically what you're saying, all I yelled at was like, the bitch needs shadow work. I'm yelling at the TV screen, the bitch needs shadow work. 90% of the shit that you created into your space is only exposing your shadows. That's all it does. Everything that you getting triggered by is exposing your fucking shadow. That childhood aspect that you have not dealt with yet. Shorty on the fucking thing, she's sitting there still holding into anger based on the first time that she got attacked by a man because she told some boy no, the boy threw a bottle at her. And then this dishonoring this thought and that becoming a catalyst, when she became older and she got married, her husband, she said she felt wronged and dishonored because the man talked to her husband and said, my bad to her, my bad to him, apologized to him, but not to her for approaching her in such of a manner. So she was still holding on to that. She's still holding on to that fucking trauma of being dishonored when she was first 16. Everything is going to correlate to that. She will find truth in everything that she does based on avoiding that trauma. You will find everything of truth to avoid changing your own behavior. That's why some of you motherfuckers will not forgive somebody. It's not based on forgiveness or the apology, because apology means changing your behavior. So if you're not going to change your behavior, of course you're not going to take accountability for yourself. If you're not going to change your behavior, of course you're not going to take responsibility. You're going to avoid responsibility. You're going to neglect accountability. Congratulations. The same thing that you felt like your mother neglected you, you're doing the same shit right now. You are doing the same corresponding act in your current state because you are your mother, because you are your father. They are the reflections of your karmic debt. They're the reflections of your karmic debt. Your contract, the shit that you're going to have to deal with before you do anything else. You can keep changing over. You can keep changing jobs. Like right now, I could keep changing jobs or identities, but I still got rent I gotta pay. I still got bills that have to still be paid. So who am I going to blame? The government when I lose my place? Am I going to blame the government when my lights get cut off? Am I going to blame my job for that? Well, what am I really blaming when I'm blaming my job? They're supposed to provide for me. You still stuck on some aspect that your father not providing for you when you were younger. So that's why you became the shadow of the best employee at your job. You became the shadow of the best employee at your job. It served a purpose. It wasn't good or bad. But when you're looking at it based on good or bad, or you're looking at it based on the identity that you're trying to maintain, it naturally has to reset or constrict itself. It naturally has to go back into a state of constrict you in that space so you can be like, oh shit, it's time. I got to turn over. Because that's how this whole space is created. It's based in the channels of that constant cycle. You're not supposed to be getting comfortable. You need that shit. You need that to happen. You need these aspects to happen to you. But you're afraid of that abandonment. You still got that abandonment issue. So when it comes to you moving forward and saying, fuck my family, I have nothing in common with my family anymore. The last memory that's going to pop up is the abandonment issue. Now it's time for you to go forward in that new space and learn some new shit about yourself. But the first thing that's going to pop up is always tied to that avoidance. The same avoidance that your mother used. The same avoidance aspects that your father used. Those are what you're using now. Because you have not accepted or even asked the question to get the answer to build from. Like I just said, like it doesn't matter why my father did what he did. Because my aunt came through and cleared all that up. It doesn't matter what my pops did and what he admits to and it does not matter what my pops admits to and does not admit to. It's how I'm going to transmute that energy into that space. If my pop was laying on the deathbed and was like, Jesus ain't real, that ain't going to change the way that I'm already moving. Everything you said was right, and let's go away. All I'm going to do is sit there and I knew I was right. This nigga held that back all this damn time. In his last dying breath, he said what he needed to say. Okay, cool. It's not going to change how I'm moving now. Because I'm no longer in constriction. I'm all about alignment. Your tics, your quirks, the things that you do, they're all based in a sense of keeping you in a certain type of constriction. 90% of what we do, I'll say about 85% of what you do unconsciously, those unconscious quirks, those tics, the way you touch it, the way you look yourself, the way you do certain things, is all based on an unconscious algorithm that you have not yet defined. This is the aspects of the human design. When you're looking at the human design, half of the things that you have not done, that the undefined aspects within your human design chart, that's what these current events are happening to for you now. They're activating those aspects. If you go look at your human design chart, or you come get your human design chart done by me, and you look at your human design chart at everything that's defined, everything that's open, everything that's defined, that's your current state of where you at right now. If you go look at the other aspects of the undefined parts, I can guarantee all of those link to the emotional channels that are your traumas. The same aspect when you look at your natal chart. Your natal chart gives you a whole forecast of everything it gives you the opportunity based on the space of your human design. That's the synonymous aspect. Your human design chart defines your space. Your natal chart defines your opportunities. Your north and south node, they define your aspects of your north and south node define the aspects of your transitions and your ego death, where you about to what has to die and what has to live. And your rising is the aspect of the energy that you're going to be tapping into that space. What you're going to be transitioning through. Once you understand where you are at and what you are, not on the level based on identity, that's when you actually can start moving forward. But you have to remove these fucking identities. That identity based on that abandonment issue, you got to deal with that abandonment issue. You are not going to have no relationship until you got that relationship right with yourself. The relationship that you're looking for, the love of your life that you're looking for, you ain't going to find it until you go look in the mirror first. You got to stop being the shadow to all these other aspects. You a shadow to your basics. You a shadow to your basic aspects of yourself. I can cook, I can clean, I can do this, I eat ass, I lick balls, all this dumb shit. Pretty much the basics now, according to this fucking era, this fucking century, that basic shit now, but none of that is going to be something that's going to keep anybody in that space, because that's an identity that you will maintain. You maintain the sexual goddess that you want to maintain, that you are the sexual goddess. Okay, cool. You want to maintain that you are a sexual god. All right, cool. That's an identity that you maintaining. That's the physical representation of the identity that you try to maintain. Because outside of that, what else is there? Outside of that, what else is there? Where did that come from? You still acting out. You want to be the hypersexualization quotient that happened from that came from that trauma that happened to you, sis. That came to that trauma that happened to you, bro. And that trauma that happened to a lot of us, to a lot of niggas, that motherfuckers don't even realize that it was a trauma, was when the babysitter or your mom's friend came through and said that you was a cute young boy and you went over there and cut her grass and she played with your balls. Nigga, that was a trauma. Remember, there's no good and bad. Trauma is just an event or a chaos catalyst. Trauma is a chaos catalyst. Without the trauma, you can't move. Because without the trauma, therefore, there's no conflict. Therefore, you can't move. So the trauma was not good or bad. It served a purpose into that space for you to later learn at a later point in time. Because think about it. If you go back to your past, if you come to me and get a past life regression with me, and we go back to a time when you was like you was just an evil ass nigga, or you was an evil ass bitch, then you be like, damn, so it makes sense now why I gotta do. It makes sense now why that shit became a correspondent in this space. I did some fucked up shit, or I did some shit back here. I made a decision back here that affected the decision up here. You in a continuum. You just keep getting tracked in the emotional aspect, so you keep forming a different body. That new identity, that new body, the new identity or body that you just keep creating is the sum of all your emotions, the sum of all fears. All that shit synthesized into one space. And you just keep creating these different shadows for yourself to live in every other space. Because you got that one friend, sister, brother, that one family member that they standoffish and they want to go rustle and tussle and shit. You're like, yo, I wish I could be like that. I wish I was like, what are you really wishing? In honesty with yourself, what you're really wishing is you wish that you were that way whenever that when that trauma, whenever you got touched. You wish you were that way whenever your pops went upside your mom's head. You wish you were that individual. That person exists based on showing you what it is, so you can not. So instead of you using discern, but we get stuck in judgment. You get stuck in the habit, so you get stuck in judgment. But we're always looking for balance. So you got the one friend over here, wild as fuck, crazy as hell, don't give a shit about nobody. Then you got the friend over here that's reserved. Why you got the reserved friend and why you got this person over here? Those are your extremes. You just created your two. You created these are your axioms. Those are your axiom points. This is what I want to live in between. So you admit to yourself that I want to live in between. I don't want to do this. I don't want to go back to that. And I don't want to go to this. That's how you get stuck in the emotional, physical aspect. The emotional shit. You get stuck in Forever 21. You get stuck in wearing fucking Jordans all your damn life. You get stuck on not evolving. And then the longer that you stay within that space, of course, just like the white man is the most degenerative, I talked about this in a lecture way back, the most degenerative behavior, the longer that you stay in that space, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to become more and more refractive of the degenerative behavior. So if you look at, I'll give you an example. If you go to Harlem right now, you go to New York, Harlem right now, that shit look like fucking Disneyland compared to what it fucking looked back in the fucking 80s. Starbucks and all types of other shit in that space. Why do you think that happened? It wasn't because no nigga didn't do anything. It's because naturally, to his most degenerative state, the environment is going to match the most degenerative behavior. It's going to naturally take out, fuck all that shit that's making the most degenerative behavior, which would be the most refracted point. It feeds off of your negativity. It feeds off of your fucking trauma. You give it your trauma. You stuck on your mom and dad issues. That's how you create this world outside of you. So you don't deal with it you stay in the childlike mindset, or rather the adolescence. Okay, you graduate from the childlike mindset. There's nothing to come out of childlike development. You naturally push forward. Now you in that adolescent emotional channel. Now you need a reason to stay in this reaction aspect. Now you still trying to build an identity. Now you still trying to create yourself. So now everything outside of you is going to give you the reason to create yourself. Most motherfuckers are in the adolescent state. If you are still getting irritated, if you are still getting upset about things, if you are still getting mad, upset, things are triggering you, you haven't done your healing work, all of these aspects, you are still in the adolescent state of your process. You are still in a state of adolescence. You have not graduated to the level of becoming the creator or being the conscious aspects of the creator, because you have not deemed your child as royalty yet. You have not deemed your child royalty. Your child rises from the ashes as the phoenix, and then you deem them as royalty. You deem them as the Sir Knight or the creator of that space, the Duke of your tears, or whatever you want to call it in that space. Your adolescence then becomes that royal aspect. Once you heal the inner child, they are the royal aspect. They are the king, the queen, the royal aspect. That way you can continue. That way you can be the creator, the adult, the God, the goddess, the creator. Until then, most motherfuckers are still stuck in the adolescent phase, the intellectual phase. The adolescent phase is the intellect phase. You're gathering information still, trying to create an identity. You haven't learned that I got to let go of all of these identities. It's only once I've mastered, similar to when we think about the mystery schools, you went through, at age 12, you entered the mystery school. Age 12, you entered the mystery school. At age 33, is when the motherfucker will walk up next to you. Bobby Hemmings said this in a lecture. When that nigga walk, the motherfuckers, the masters of the mystery school walk up beside you and be like, you know, all that shit that you just had to learn, all that's you. That's where you at now. You keep getting stuck in the identities or the different, you keep getting stuck within the different aspects of the different schools or the different trains of thought, because school simply means train of thought or training thought. You're stuck in the school or the train of thought because it feeds your identity. Because to go over here and take that mask off, that means you're going to have to deal with some real shit. 1 second. All right, we back. But going into this thought process, where we at? Taco, chicken. All right, cool. Going into that aspect, you created this mindset. You created this paradigm for yourself to exist. You've been doing the same thing. It's the same story over and over and over again. It's the same mythos over and over and over again. Over and over and over. You've been living the same mythos over and over and over and over again. But you kept looking at the enemy being something that's external, or trying to make this proof of an enemy being external or something that was stopping you. I could not be where I'm at now if I still was holding on to the acceptance of my mother and my father. I couldn't do what I'm doing now. If it was based on the acceptance of my mother and father, I was in fear of acceptance of my mother and father. The worst thing that you do to yourself in that space, the worst thing that you do in contact is, for most people that are trying to do what they're doing now, the underline or the base to it is to prove to their mother and their father that they can do it. You still got mommy and daddy issues. It's okay. You have to acknowledge them in order to move forward. You created an entire identity off of mommy and daddy issues. And when I say mom and dad issues, we're talking about the aspects of who is your mother and who is your father. Who played the mother role and who played the father role in your life. You always had, and this is the craziest part about it, you can never say you didn't have a mother, because at some point in time, you had a mothering figure in your life, even if it was your father. You can never say you didn't have a father, because at a point in time, you had a fathering or a paternal influence in your life. So if you didn't have the traditional father, now you got to go to the aspect of who was the first person, the fraternal aspect in your life? Who is the maternal aspect in your life? And that's the environment that you're going to have to go into, because none of that shit was good or bad, because that shit taught you certain things. I learned how to be very open-minded because of my closed-minded father. My closed-minded pops and father. My pop super fucking closed-minded. I learned how to be open-minded. So do I blame so can I really say my pops didn't teach me anything? Even though I'm the teacher and the student at the same fucking time? Can I say my pops didn't teach me anything? No. My pops showed me, I learned inherently that that's not what I wanted to do. I made a choice. i.e., I broke the cycle of saying, like, nigga, there is no such thing as something that's going to stop me. I accepted accountability. Yeah. Exactly. If it's not the maternal or the fraternal, it's your first example of the maternal or the masculine or the feminine energy that came into your life. When you're inside of that space, that's what you're searching for. You've been searching for it, but you had it. You've had everything come through. You've had everything that you needed to come through. You just cannot, you only saw it based on the title or the identity. So you can always say, I didn't, because it sounds stupid as fuck when somebody says, it just sounds dumb now. Now when I think about it, it's like, if somebody sits here and tells me that they never had a father, but then they say the streets raised them, I'll be like, then nigga, the streets was your father. That was your masculine, that was the masculine energy that you came in contact with. Nah, man, I ain't had no dad. You still trying to hold on to that behavior. So you're saying because you didn't have a father, the father figure in the physical image, that's the reason you went to the streets. So you're blaming that on your choice instead of you accepting that you made that choice. Ultimately, you made that choice because your ass could have sat in the fucking house. Your ass could have sat in the house and watch your mom get high or watch your mom get tricking out, tricks coming in and out, but you decided not to. You decided to walk outside of the house. You made that decision. There's nothing wrong with it except the decision that you made. That way you actually can start doing your fucking work and stop putting shit off on other people. You were the first person to put shit off yourself. Actually, you were the second person in most times. But you were the first one to put shit off. You were the first one to, the excuse does not exist until you made it. The thought does not exist until you make it. Whether you honor the thought or dishonor yourself in the thought, that's going to be your key into that space with yourself. Are you going to carry on avoidance? Your mom avoided raising you, so you're going to avoid dealing with your own feelings? Your mom neglected you, so you're going to neglect dealing with your own feelings? Do you see how asinine that it becomes when you really start thinking about it? This is the thing that hurts most people when they actually start really thinking about it. Oh shit, nigga, I really got to start accepting some shit. I got to accept the dynamic of everything that I've done in my own life is based on me. They were only the ignition. I carried that flame on forward. Even if you want to go all the way out and say that the white man did this and the white man did that, when are you going to start taking responsibility for yourself? You want to challenge everything else. You want to challenge everything else based on an emotional content, based on behavior, but you won't challenge them to their own. You won't challenge your own reflection. You won't challenge your own reflection. They're only a reflection of you. They run game on you based through business. Time for you. They run game on you based on business, based on numbers, based on knowing that they know what they are. They know that they're a fucking creation. They know that they're a corporation. That's why they have no problem in keeping their kids on bills and shit because they can write their kids off every year. They know what the fuck they are in that aspect. You're the only one that doesn't. I want to be a god, nigga. That means you are down here. You are a corporation. You are a corporation. You are a combining of multiple cells put into a body based under a code of conduct or emotions to keep yourself moving forward. You are a corporation. Whether you are a subsidiary or a slave to your emotion, or you are the owner of your emotions, that's your choice. That's your first choice in ownership, that LLC mentality. Everything that you're doing based on the liability mindset, the unhealed asset, the lack mindset, the The liability mindset, you just create more liabilities because you're doing it through an emotional aspect. Every time I see a nigga protest, I see more liabilities. I see liabilities. Every time that I see a motherfucker say Chinese and black people lives matter, all I see is liabilities. Every time that I see a motherfucker talk about a stimulus check and not talking about investing or doing something with it, all I see is the liability. That's the energy that I see. I see liabilities or assets. I see the high level of energy, therefore it's an asset. If I see a low level of energy, it's a liability. I adjust accordingly. That's your ownership mentality. That's me. I'm out of the adolescent phase. I'm ancient. I didn't unlock ancient aspects of myself. I'm ancient. Been here forever. I've been in this space forever. I'm not there no more. So I don't have to maintain there's no identity to maintain. There's no enemy to me. The enemy does not exist to me. The only thing that can stop me is my own self. That's my only enemy. Once you accept that you are your own enemy, I'm not talking about acknowledge it. Yeah, I am my own worst enemy. I do talk down to myself. I do try to mesh into the world. I do all this. That's the acknowledgement. Once you accept it, then you can start doing the work. You can acknowledge it all day. And acknowledging it sounds like I want to. Acknowledgement sounds like I got to. Acknowledgement sounds like I wish for. Acknowledgement sounds like I hope so. That's what acknowledgement sounds like. Acknowledgement sounds like I hope so. I think so. I'm going to try. I want this. I want that. I wish somebody would love me the way that I love them. That's what acknowledging is. Acceptance is no one's going to love me harder than I love no one's going to love me into the depth of me not loving myself first. Acceptance is I'm no longer going to try. I'm going to execute this plan. And the obstacles that come up are the things that are necessary for me to learn how to maximize and quantify this plan of my path going forward. Acceptance is outside of comfort. Acknowledgement is that barrier of comfort. Once you we acknowledge things and we poke the barrier. We poke the barrier between comfort and staying in the comfort zone. So we acknowledge it and we just poke the bubble. We acknowledge it. We just poke at it. It's a permeable sphere. Once you acknowledge that it's there, now you just working with it. Most people, when you come into your consciousness, you acknowledge that it's there, but now you start streaming energy through it, making it make a certain space for you. Now you sitting there, yeah. I know eating this ain't good for me, and this ain't good for me, and this ain't good for me, and this ain't good for me. So I'm gonna start eating this, and this. And now you got the identity. Now you basically got the identity. Now your identity is based on you being vegan. Now your identity is based on you being plant-based. Now your identity is based on you being whatever. Now your identity is based on the constriction of you being plant-based. Your identity is based on the constriction of you being plant-based, and I'm holistic, and I do this, and this. That is now your new identity. You have now constricted yourself. Because until you define the reason why you're doing it, there's no reason to what the fuck, what's the purpose? Until you have defined that reason for yourself is not authentic to you. Because when it's authentic to you, that's when it's implanted into your subconscious mind, and you forget why you do it. You forget why you do it. I forget why I do certain things now. I literally understand what it means to like, is this something that I do? But it's not based on constriction. See, when you sitting there trying to maintain this, as long as you're trying to maintain an identity for yourself, as long as you're trying to maintain this identity, you're going to find yourself in a constant state of constriction. You're always going to be in between the space of the negatives and the positives. You'll always have the positives to pull at because you ain't becoming the positives. You have not defined and synthesized yourself in becoming those positives. You're only doing it for a certain point in time. Therefore, now whenever it's not working, you step back away from it. You can become inconsistent because you still concentrating on what you were and not what you are. I said that yesterday during the Meditate and Elevate. You still got hard feelings. You still got feelings. Your problem is that you still have feelings. You still caring about shit. You haven't graduated to compassion. Caring about shit is simply acknowledging something is there and living vicariously through it. Your homegirl that keep falling in and out of love, she got a new fucking boyfriend every fucking 6 weeks. You vicariously living through her because you've been in it, because you sitting there looking for, you sitting there wishing for love and in a desperate state with love for yourself. But you looking at, I can't just go out there and do that. My energy is this, and this, and this, and this. All right, cool. If you really believe that, then you would not be sitting in that. If you really believe that, you would change your whole fucking standard. They wouldn't even exist in that space. Their sole purpose is to keep making you say the same shit to yourself until you get it, until you accept it. That's why they keep coming back up. Because you have not accepted that aspect within inside of yourself. You gonna sit there and tell her, I love myself and I do my yoni steams and girl, I do all my shit like this, this, and this, and I love me. But in reality, you don't even believe that shit to yourself. You don't even believe that shit to yourself. Because if you believe that shit to yourself, then the opportunity in your space would change. That would not be a part of your space. Her mindset, that imagery would not be a part of your space. You can't bring in this power into that space because it becomes whatever's inside of the space. It becomes that thought. You love on yourself and you celibate and you trying to, because you still carry it on the same streams when you saying that you independent. You ain't became self-sufficient yet. You ain't learned how to transmute energy yet. That's why you still there in that space. Bruh, you want to sit here and talk, motherfucker, you going around talking, you went from the black woman is God, and now you want to go into the space of, I want a polygamous relationship, all because you ain't learned how to deal with your fucking urges. You still split somewhere inside of yourself. I'm not saying there's anything wrong. I'm not saying anything bad about polygamy. I did a whole fucking lecture on polygamy and the aspects of understanding to the higher aspect. But you want to keep using it to sustain your identity. It's not authentic. You trying to do it to maintain an identity. You want to stay in a certain space. You want to stay in a certain paradigm so you ain't got to evolve. You want to keep certain habits. You want to avoid certain aspects. It's all right, though. If that's you, that's you. But you have to understand the difference between you being authentic within yourself. It's the ultimate aspect of you honoring your thoughts. Honoring your thoughts in the innocence as that child, in that childlike innocence. That means allowing it to flow and allowing everything to come up in order for you to learn from it. If it's still triggering shit within you, that means you still got shit to work on. I went on my shopping. I went on my daily I went on my Friday shopping. And picked up 2 oils today. I got my dragon blood. Got my nice little dragon blood oil. See if I can see it. That's my dragon blood oil. And then I also got my Lakshmi drops. The Lakshmi drops is like $12.50 at the joint that I go to. It was $12.50. Cause I usually always go there. But one of the dude behind the counter, he was one of them how you doing niggas. He was gay. That motherfucker, he looked me dead in my eyes because I had my skull mask on. And he said, $12.50, I ain't gonna let you pay that. He winked at me, put that shit in my bag. I handed him my card, swiped my card. I didn't pay for that. I didn't pay that $12.50 for them drops. If I was trying to maintain an identity, I would have said, like, nigga, don't be winking at me. I'm gonna pay for my shit, nigga. I'm a man. Nigga, no. I'm going to accept that offering. I'm going to transmute that aspect of energy. Because I know what I know that I'm not gay, so what the fuck do I care? Why would I sit there and put myself in the space and be like, oh my God, this nigga looked at me and said it, this nigga came on to me. The thought didn't even cross my mind that I go there every fucking Friday, damn near. And if this nigga see me in there again, I don't have to talk to this nigga. I don't have to say nothing to this motherfucker. The only way that I would sit there and have to talk or interact with this person is if I put the thought into my mind. If I allowed the thought to permeate into my mind, because now I got to create these scenarios in my head. And if I'm creating these scenarios in my head, I have to honor these thoughts. That's what you do with your environment every single day. This is why I say it's so important that when you wake up, how are you starting your day? How are you starting your day when you wake up? What are you starting your day with? Is it based on the negative aspects or is it based on the positive aspects? Are you waking up saying you got to do something? Or are you waking up feeling like you grateful and gracious and in gratitude? Because that initial thought sets the stream for every other thing that's going to come into your space. The thought form has to live. And it's going to find places to live. That's like if I left out of my complex right now, if somebody came down this way and we leaving the complex at the same time, walking across the street. Let's say I'm going for my walk. We walk across the street. If they're in a bad mood, I'm in a great mood, and I'm walking down the street. Everything that can happen in a negative sense is what they're going to see. I ain't gonna see nothing. I'm aware of the negatives, but since I'm aware of them, but my mindset's not stuck in the negative that negative scape, I can navigate around the negatives. I can now navigate around. I'm not avoiding them because I'm aware that they're there. That's the key with our separation aspect with ourselves. When you keep ignoring the negatives, that means you're not aware of why they're there. That's deeper. That you're not aware of why they are there. That's why that shit keep happening to you. You acknowledge that they are there, but you have not accepted that the reason that they are there. You have not accepted the lesson of why that is there in that space. That's why you keep repeating that shit over and over and over again. You've acknowledged it's there, but you're not accepting its purpose and why it's there. You're not accepting what created it. You're not accepting the corresponding conflict that's within inside of yourself that created that space, that created that port or this point for it to come into your life. So then you sit there like, nah, man, you don't understand. Man, it's because these bitches out here, man, every time I try to open up, I never said nothing to you about opening up to no women, bruh. I want you to open up to yourself. These niggas, I'm tired of raising niggas. And we tired of raising niggas and teaching niggas how to wipe their balls off and teaching niggas how to do this shit and teaching niggas how to do this shit. Okay. But you got to accept accountability, sis. Why do you keep attracting these type of niggas? Why? What was your first example of a nigga in your life? You still looking for somebody because they strong and they strong and they don't take no shit. You looking for a replacement for your fucking father. 80% of my clients, whenever we go through that aspect in their shadow work, we break it down to the men that are in their lives of current state. They're trying to either impress, prove something against their father, or replace or create or fill a void where their father was not at. Most of the men that I deal with as my clients, it's the same process. You're either trying to replace the aspects and create a better mother, either give yourself a mother, create a better mother, or be what it is that you thought that your mother would need in order for her to actually have been there. Avoidance, abandonment, or neglect on either end of the spectrum. Most of the times, this is what you get stuck in. You trying to make, you had never had a father, your father wasn't shit, your father was abusive, your father touched you, so now you trying to create another father. That's what you're doing. You haven't acknowledged it, so now you're trying to recreate it. You're still in the adolescent phase. That's why when you don't get what you want and you get stuck in this, ooh, daddy, 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 daddy. You get stuck in this daddy calling niggas daddy and shit because it's connected to that. It's connected to a corresponding thought. It's a tick. It's a twitch. It's a tick that you ain't learned yet. Niggas like to be called daddy. I don't like being called daddy. Do not call me daddy and use the baby voice because to me it initiates that you have father issues. Me being aware of it, I'm like, oh shit. Because before I was aware to it, that shit weirded me out, but I never even said, when chicks used to call me that shit back then, I never really acknowledged it because it was weird and I didn't want to miss the chance to whatever was about to happen. Openly admitting to that shit. I'd be like, why are you calling me daddy though? Don't call me that. Like, that's not my name. That's not me. But even in that space, once I accepted it that they were calling me that because they had father issues, it was something that I transmuted that energy. Instead of allowing it to stay stagnant in that space, I transmuted that awkwardness, or that this is the key to you championing your own self. Like, I'm Papa Lucifer. I'm Papa Lucifer, Papa Lucy. That's me. So it's like, in a way, they knew something about me that I didn't know about myself. That's how I can multi-stream that energy through a space. Instead of me saying like, man, I don't like no bitches calling me daddy. But like, nigga, why you still upset? She got dad issues. If you ask her, why did she call you that? And whatever excuse that she's going to give you, the first thing that you should say is, do you have father issues? Do you have issues with your father? Because that's what they're giving you. See, a lot of times we wait for other individuals. We wish that everybody had on a piece of paper that said what they were. We wait for people to have a piece of paper on to say what they were. They do have a piece of paper on. It's called that mask that you wearing in reverse. They're wearing the mask that you're wearing. They're wearing the table of contents to the mask that you're wearing. That's why they trigger those aspects. They're holding the mirror up to your book that's written all over your mask. That's what they're using while they're inside of that space. So they're having that conversation with you and they're triggering those things. They're triggering your daddy issues. They're triggering your mom issues. They're triggering that time that happened. They're triggering those intimacy issues. They're triggering these aspects. And if you go untreated, it just becomes worse. If you go untreated, it becomes worse. How does it become worse? It's gonna go from because as you're transitioning, that's why you're gonna have chicks be like, nigga, you must be gay. Or nigga, maybe you can't get it up. They're gonna use everything in the arsenal to shoot at your ass to try to make you react. This is your chance to respond. It don't matter what their response is going to be, as long as you respond from your truth or your authentic self. I don't like your energy, man. No hard feelings, but your energy not off. Your energy off. Like you are You are, on the external sense, you are very beautiful and well put together. You're a well put together woman, but your energy is off. There's something about you that it doesn't align with me. Once you say that, it don't matter what they say after that shit, because nonsense they're gonna say, nah, nigga, that they still gonna think what they're gonna think. But you have put a point into that space to when they come up to you, no matter what you say, you stated your truth and authentic self, free of filters, free of mask. You state a point to now their thoughts now have to transmute. The energy of their thoughts is transmuted and reversed into you. That's how you eat that energy. That's how you ain't worried about that shit. Same thing for niggas. Same thing for like niggas dealing with chicks. Women have mastered that shit in an unconscious sense. I saw the shit all the time growing up in New York. Hell, I saw it down here. Shorty, hey, red dress. Hey, man, fuck you too, bitch. And they just keep walking. They literally just transmuted the energy. That shit didn't phase them. It's when you turn around and be like, you called me a bitch? You called me this and you called me that? You are now engaging into war with somebody that has more experience in that space. You are now engaging into war with somebody that has more experience into that space. That's the same shit, motherfucker. That's the same thing motherfuckers do with white people all day. You do that same shit with the white man all day. Your shadow, the most reflective part of you, the most the degenerative body and the most refractive point of you being you. Every fucking day. They never move. They're not going to move. They're not going to move. Their position's not going to change. They're not going to fall out of the position that they're in, because the position that they're in is a point for you to learn to become for your own damn self. They're doing something. So the original reason that you created all of these lower aspects in expression is to do all of the things that you did not want to do as a God. As you in your higher state, that's shit that you didn't want to do. You didn't want to experience pain. With nobody, you don't experience pain. The emotions you don't experience. The urges you don't experience. You don't experience none of these things. So coming through that gateway, the soul contract that you came through was experiences that you signed up for before you came down here. The experiences that you came down here with. Now, it would not be fair for you to have, the ability to be like, yep, these are experiences I got to go through. So that's when you created and Brother Penny talked about this, that's when you created your handicap, i.e. your ego. Here's the truth about your ego. You need your ego is always going to exist. It always exists. The key is once you integrate with your shadow. I talked about this during Dark Night of the Shadow. When you integrate with your shadow, your ego now will work for you. Your ego no longer can take on identities or create masks. As long as you are in an unconscious state, not dealing with yourself, not walking with yourself, not healing yourself, your ego will always have to create masks or these band-aids for you to keep doing what you're doing. Because that's what it's here for. But once you have now in your authentic self, your ego is transparent as fuck. It has nothing to pull from. Your ego has everything to keep you masked up and comfortable because you ain't willing to let go of certain habits. At the point in time, you like being a shadow to a certain point. you're no longer the shadow. At a certain point in time, you like playing with the shadow. Ooh, I'm gonna put my shadow out there. Now you no longer can use your shadow as an identity. The only thing that's left is you and your shadows. The shadow in the shadow box. Now all that's left is shadows. So if you still got enemies, I got all types of enemies. I got haters. I got people that hate on me. Who the fuck gives a fuck? You got some haters. That's nice. I got me some haters. They hate on me because I'm great and I'm this and I'm that and I'm this. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. You put yourself in that space, trying to maintain that old ass identity. There's a difference between the identity that is maintained through liberation. I'm liberating myself. I'm free. I'm gonna shake my ass. I'm gonna shake my ass. I'm gonna show my money. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna show my flexing and all this shit. And then you truly being in that aspect of yourself. See, when you look for the external validation aspect, it maintains your ego in the identity that you're in service to. As long as you are maintaining the identity, you are in service to you're in service to it. You will always be in service. Even if you want to be in a business owner, it's nice, that's cool, but you're still serving something. Because that's only serving that aspect of a point of escape in physical. Ooh. Shit. I'm gonna go off my damn nose. Your growth is outside. I'm always saying this. Your growth is outside of discomfort. Let me do this real quick. This shit's fucking up. I'm a live chat. Want to go away? Pop out. All right, cool. There we go. All right, cool. I had to redo it so y'all contacts come back and through. But when you inside of that space with yourself, trying to maintain an identity in the conscious phase, what I see people trying to maintain an identity is like when you try to gather another name, the name has nothing to do with your ass, or you don't understand the actual aspects of your name. Like I've broken down, like in previous lectures before, I've broken down what got it. I've broken down the aspect of what Godico Alchemist means for my space, how I created Godico Alchemist. I created Godico Alchemist as the generator, the operator, and the destroyer of the shadows of the hidden. That is the occult aspect. So I can master the occult aspects so I can now create. That's what Godico Alchemist is to me. That shit goes all the way into my name. My first name ever on Facebook is when I was putting Carlos King on my first Facebook page was Carlos King. I put Carlos King on my Facebook page because when I started my Facebook page, I wanted to stay in contact with all of my father's side of the family. So my Facebook page was like a memorial aspect for my pops, who I became Carlos King or the entity that was Carlos King based on and accepting this identity. You have to accept your identities that you created. You must give name to every one of your identities so you can destroy each one of these lesser gods. The identities that you create are the lesser gods. So you getting stuck on I want to be Oya, that's a lesser god to you. You want to be Yemi, that's a lesser god to you. It's an aspect of you, but it's a lower form of you. So once you embrace your true spiritual name, it can be parts of that, but it's going to be truly in tune to you. It's not going to be based on identity. When I first created my Facebook page back in 2007, 6 or 7, whenever I created my Facebook page, Carlos King was the identity I put onto that page. Carlos King was the individual that was on that page. I never had pictures on. I went back and forth from putting a picture on my page to not putting a picture on my page. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Maintaining an identity based on Facebook. Maintaining this identity of what I was becoming on Facebook. The only reason most people get stuck in that aspect is because you're maintaining a certain identity on there. How many people do you know are actually who they are off of social media? Motherfuckers that rock with me on a regular fucking basis know that I am the same exact person. I'm the same exact intensity. It may come out a little more gentler at certain points in time. It may come out gentler or a different wave form, but it's the same motherfucking intensity and everything. It's the same discipline. My core is the same. Therefore, in every space that I go into, there's no identity. It's my core being exposed. So everything that I do is based on that core aspect. I'm not into the space of like, oh my God, motherfuckers don't like me, and I don't give a fuck about that shit no more. I used to like thrive. We thrive on motherfuckers not liking you. That's weird as hell to me now. Now when I actually think about it, but most people actually thrive on motherfuckers not liking them. I used to wonder for myself. This shit is getting on my nerves. Now it don't want to show my chats. Pop out chat. Aw. Let me put that up there. All right, cool. Boom, we got that open. If you have right now, I don't know what's wrong with the chat right now. The chat is just now trying to reconnect. But if you have any questions, answers, or thoughts that you want to share while we doing it for the remaining of the lecture, the number 910-777-7708. That's the business line. Go ahead, send the text there, and then I'll read it off of here. But I was so stuck in creating these forms for myself so I could exist within certain space. So I always could go back and be like, you know what? It's because of this. I always can be the mourning nigga, the nigga that was mourning or in grief. How long you gonna stay in grief? How long you gonna stay mourning some shit? How long you gonna stay in that? How long you gonna stay in that space feeding off of drama? You got one or two choices. Once you acknowledge it, how are you gonna honor it? What does it mean? What is it rooted in? Real questions give you real. You ask yourself a true question, you're gonna get a true answer to yourself. For the most part, for a lot of us, we don't like to ask ourselves those real ass fucking questions. Like I don't know, because we like putting ourselves in a position to where we can feed off of negative. The dynamics of your own power. The dynamics of your own power are outside of all limitations. How can you not connect the track? I don't understand. You want to be an idiot, I swear. We haven't been able to connect the chat in a long time like that. But when you put yourself in a certain mindset and you get stuck in this identity shit will fuck you up. I'm gonna tell you, like, the living in a certain identity is gonna fuck you up. Living in the Afrocentric aspect, saying that you're wounded, saying that these are just identities that you create for yourself. Even when you come to the point of saying, I'm wounded. I'm wounded. I've been hurt before. All you're saying is all you're doing is creating the counterbalance for you to live within that space. I'm an advocate for this. I'm not against you being an advocate, but understand what is the purpose of you being an advocate. What is the purpose of being? What are you advocating? So how are you, like, after a point in time, like, okay, I'm an advocate for this. Okay, cool. I'm an advocate. Okay, that's nice. That's great. You are an advocate against cool. But what are you doing inside of yourself to make sure that you can create? What are you creating outside of the advocacy? What are you creating outside of the antagonist mindset? That should be the key goal that you're going into yourself. What are you creating outside of the antagonist mindset? What are you creating outside of the antagonist mindset? What are you creating that's going to exist outside of that space? Not inside that space. So because it can be very easy for me to literally spend hours upon hours upon hours upon hours of creating content that is based in fear. I can create content, fear-based content over and over and over again, get all the fucking views that I want, talk about and talk about all this other shit, but that's not me. My job, my purpose is to be the healer. My job is to analyze and break down things into the simplest quotient in order for it to be used in real life application, not based on some shit like, oh, once you get to this level, then you can do this, this, and this. No, you're already at every level that you are already at every point that you are ever going to be at in this position. The only thing that changes is as you change this mindset, your environment shall change, or your environment, or rather your space will change. Therefore, your opportunities change. When your opportunities change, that means your standards are changing. What happens is we get stuck in between the opportunity and the standard aspect. Your higher standard, the upper echelons of standard, it requires a higher level of awareness to yourself. Standard requires accountability and responsibility. That's in that code of conduct. You don't want to conduct yourself and go to the higher level, then say, I don't want to go there, and accept everything that goes into that space. But stop saying to yourself that The reason we can't get ahead is because of this, and that, and this, that. It ain't got nothing to do with nothing else outside of you. Those are only the catalyst of chaos that you create to keep you behaving the way that you are behaving. That's all that shit is. Everything outside of you is a catalyst that you use to either learn from based on the experience. So now you want to experience it. So you're like, yo, white man is trying to kill us with vaccines. All right, cool. You create the conjunction or that chaos catalyst for you to live out that space. So now you in that world of I'm an advocate and I'm against taking the vaccine, and you can live your life in that space. But you can't complain about other motherfuckers not wanting to live there with you. You cannot complain about other motherfuckers not wanting to live in that space. You're wanting there to be an agenda. You wanting there to be an agenda. They trying to stop us from producing kids and having beautiful black families and all this shit. Now you want an agenda. You create the chaos catalyst for that. And that honors your thought. You're God, remember? They're honoring your thought. They're giving you exactly what you think. It's only the expression of you. You just got stuck in it and forgot you've been here. Like, oh shit, damn, nigga, I forgot I got that energy. It's child's play. Every nigga that goes through, everybody that's in an unhealed state, you are Chucky. You are Chucky. You are Chucky. The whole storyline behind Chucky, he was trying to inhabit a child's body so he could relive his life. He was trying to reestablish he was trying to tap into childlike innocence so he can unlock his magic. But he was not willing to let go of all of his attributes that he did that were based on the lower aspects of himself. He wasn't willing to let go of his lower aspects to become the child. That's why it never worked. Y'all running around here mad because you wanting to be in, you're wanting these things, but you ain't willing to do that shit to yourself first. Because you believe that you need to. Yes, you are two people already. But since you stuck in that same fundamental thought process of you never had, now you're always trying to get it and just create it in different ways. You never had a mother. So now you keep trying to create yourself, either i.e. as the best mother, or you're trying to get in a relationship with somebody that can be your mother. The same thing with the father aspect. You never had a father, so i.e. now you're trying to create the reason to be a father. And then now you created those anchors, kids, and all that good shit to be within that space. Until you learn the lesson, you're going to keep going through the same shit. What's the reason that you became a mother? What's the reason that you became a father? What's the reason that you became that idea? What's the real reason behind that identity? What does it mean? What does it mean to you? Not the social construct, or the social cues. What does it mean to you? Because if you really understood what it meant, when I really understood what a lot of these titles meant, I could diminish the title. I could diminish the title and become the essence of the energy of the title. I don't need the title of, I don't need the conduit to be a father because I'm already the father. I don't need to have the aspect of, I don't need it. So when it comes into my space, I can fully accept it because I don't have a layer or an identity I'm trying to maintain or trying to gain into. So when it comes into my space, I'm like, I can be open to it. I can be the truest version of myself, the most authentic version of myself, because I'm already there. I'm already prepared for it. It's not me getting ready for it. Oh shit, now I gotta get ready to be a no. I'm already prepared for it because I learned that aspect within myself. That childhood shadow of my father not being there in the beginning and my pops not being my blood father, all these aspects, these traumas and everything underlined with that. I've dealt with those things. I've become my father. So naturally I can be the all father. I've dealt with those aspects of my mother. So naturally I can become the nurturing aspect within myself. Therefore, I have a standard set and I can live in my standard, and my standards create my new opportunities. So now I have the opportunity to express. Now I have the opportunity to embrace all the expressions. I'm really mad that the damn chat's fucked up. Wait, let me do it again. And pop out. I know y'all can see me. Yeah. That pissed me off. I'm good with that. What was I about to say? Your acknowledgement ain't gonna be shit without you accepting. Your acceptance ain't gonna be shit without you apologizing or going through the forgiveness. Your life will maintain the same levels and frequency on that vibration of that space as long as you're approaching it from the want, as long as you're approaching it from the want aspect. I want to be loved. I need to be loved. I need this and I want this and I want this. So I'm going to try as soon, because this is the aspect of when you're saying that you want. I want to be loved the way that I love others. All right, cool. So guess what you're going to try to do? You're going to try to live in the shadow of being whatever it is other individuals need in order to get the love that you have not yet defined inside of yourself. I want you to stop neglecting yourself. I want you to stop avoiding I want you to stop going through this place of avoidance. I want you to stop avoiding yourself. Stop neglecting yourself. Stop detaching from you. Stop allowing yourself to continue to stop being detached. I desire for myself at a point in time where you get to a point to where you just don't want it to happen anymore. You get to a point to where you're like, you know what? That's not me anymore. For me, that point happened so many different times and so many different identities. And I had to first accept those identities. So when I speak on these things, I'm not speaking from a level like I didn't do it yet. I've done it. So I had to accept these identities that I created for myself, even in like the recent last 2 years. The last of the identities that I created for myself and why I created them and why I made them exist, I had to deal with. It's going to be a constant phase, because once you understand that you create identities, you will now, even when you are creating these identities, they're more from a space of transmutation. That means you're submitting to the attributes of that space. Psychastria, what's another book? The Frank Rudolph Library. Good for all those books. But you're now submitting to the aspects of that space. I'm not submitting to it. I'm submitting to every space as the essence of, not the being to be a part of, not to be a part, but to be. I understand I'm the essence of. I'm already in whatever space that I go into. I'm already in that position. I'm at that position and at that point for a reason. There's something that I have to master. There's something that I have to learn in that space. There's no more excuses once you understand that you make the excuses. There's no more distractions once you understand that you make the distractions. There's no more procrastinations. There's no more inconsistencies. There's no more of these aspects that are be happening in your fucking life that you used to live by and die by to stay what? Stay a real nigga? Stay a bad bitch? Stay broken? Ain't nobody, the fuck? Would you marry yourself? Would you deal with yourself on a regular basis? Can you sit in your house by yourself? Can you sit down by yourself for longer than an hour with yourself? With the TV off, no music, nothing playing. Can you sit with yourself? That's going to be your key. Can you sit with yourself? Or do you feel you always need to have something around you? You got to acknowledge these abandonment issues. You got to acknowledge how you neglect. You got to acknowledge how you're neglecting yourself, your abandonment issues, because those are the shadows that create everything around you. You always have a constant fear of somebody not going to love you the way that you love them. You always have a constant aspect of motherfucker not respecting you the way you respect yourself. They're only holding up the mirror of you looking at yourself. Do you respect you? Based on that definition? Based on that identity? Own your shit. What was I gonna do? Oh yeah. Whew. Need water. Whew. I'm gonna close this out with a reading. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. The chat is fucked up. I don't know what's wrong with the chat. It's been a while since the chat did that. It won't let me reset it. It's all right. But the number is 910-777-7708. Or if you send a text there. I'll answer it from there. If you are on if you follow me on Facebook, Rock Hollow Nijas, hit me in the messenger. You follow me on Instagram at Papa Lucy, Papa_Lucy666. You can hit me on there, but mainly hit the number because I got the phone just sitting up right here. But I'm gonna close this out with a reading. Your standard, your ownership, you knowing yourself, you writing your own book. Basically, you writing your own book. That table of conducts is your code of conduct. How are you living in how are you living in your book? How are you living in your space? How are you living in your world? How are you living in your realm? What are you putting in your realm, and what does your realm mean? What is everything in your world? What does it serve? What purpose does it serve? Is the purpose, your purpose in aspects of ownership is owning yourself and owning everything within your space. That means that In knowing your value, in honoring your thoughts, how does everything in your space reflect your value, define your value, and honor your thoughts? How does everything in your space do that for you? That's your key. That's your key in you creating your space. Before doing anything else, the healing work must be done. The healing must be done while you're going through this process. The healing is being done. You are becoming the healing. You're becoming the healer. You're becoming the healing. You're letting go of what you were. That's going to be your key. Letting go of what the fuck you were. None of that shit mattered. The shit that happened didn't matter. The only thing that holds any weight is the lesson that you learned. None of that other shit mattered. The only thing that holds any weight is the lesson that you learned. If you didn't learn the lesson, then that's why it matters so much. A lot of motherfuckers are still holding on to I didn't have a mother, I didn't have a father, I didn't have this, and I didn't have that. You didn't learn you didn't understand the lesson from it. What did you gain from that? You didn't have a mother or a father, or you didn't have this when you were growing up, or you had it hard when you were growing up. So guess what you learned? You learned how to be kind and you learned value. That's your lesson. Stop holding on to that and feeding through that and understand the lesson that you learned. That way you understand, like, damn, my life really wasn't that bad. Because in reality, that's what we get stuck in. You will get stuck here because you sitting there in that space and you're still holding on to that bad memory, that bad thing that happened to you. You're still holding on to it. That's why you can't advance, because that's still there. You ain't learned how to transmute that shit. You ain't learned how to deal with it, face it, kill it off, kill that identity, and move forward. That's what you got to do. First card to be knocked off is the Nine of Swords. The Nine of Swords represents killing that identity. It's the end of the old identity. It's the end of the old thought process. It's the end of the word. It's the end of the word. It's the end of the living in the word. The end of living in the word. The end of living in the word. Just let it fall as it falls. The end of living how you were is apparently the aspect what you got to do now. Oh, there it is. Once you let go of that identity, that's when you're going to be able to acquire that true strength. You see how he's sticking his hand in the lion mouth? That's what you got to do. This is you. That's you. That's you. Everything in this space is you. Once you face what the fuck you scared of, you gonna move forward. That's your strength in yourself. That identity no longer exists. It's time to let go of this illusionist identity. You trying to maintain, I want to be this and this and that. That shit don't exist no more. That shit don't exist no more. It's done. Stop holding on to that shit. Knight of Cups. That's it. Yeah, Knight of Cups. That means moving forward. Until you acknowledge that you holding on to that old ass identity, until you acknowledge that you holding on to that old aspect, or maybe you have acknowledged that you have dealt with that aspect, but I'm feeling like you coming to the end of the cycle of maintaining an old identity of yourself. The way that you used to be, the way that you used to move, the way that you used to navigate, the way that you used to live, the way that you used to think about life. It's time to let go of those old ass identities. It's time to let go of those old ass character traits that gave you this sense of who the fuck you were. That's where you're going to find your strength. You're going to feel real weak as fuck. You don't feel stronger than ever. And that's the only way you're going to be able to master that damn cup. See how he's just looking off, waiting for the chance to fill his cup. And then that goes to the aspects of that magician. That's more of that magic. That's that transmutation. Looking inside of your cup, understanding what's inside of your cup, allowing it to flow up so you can look at it, is going to help you be able to transmute and go to the next phase. You stuck in old phases. You keep trying to make the same shit work, you keep trying to do the same 3 tricks, and they ain't working no more. For me, in a recent aspect, I had to learn for myself to stop using the old tricks didn't work for me anymore. The old way of thought, the old way that I was moving didn't work anymore. The old way I was approaching things didn't work anymore. I had to let go of that in order to embrace the opportunities that are in front of me. I had to stop looking at things from based in the back of trying to convert, trying to convince, trying to make everything fit trying to make all of these old puzzle pieces fit in my new puzzle. They're not meant for this puzzle. They're not meant to be involved here. This is where you will get bogged down and you be like, motherfuckers don't like me. I don't care. Like, if they don't rock with me, they don't deal with me, they don't deal with me. That's cool. That's fine. It's dandy. I'm not here for them. I'm here for the individuals that are in the aspects. Nigga, I need to kill some shit. I need to heal. I need to really work on myself. I need something that's really transformative and not based on me doing the same fucking shit over and over again. That's who I'm here for. That's my purpose. That was my purpose for myself. My entire first half of the game that I played in that childlike mindset was set up to teach me that. That's what I gathered from mine. Which leads into that 2 of Wands. This the aspects of decisions. Now that you know what you know, this is going to be the key. Now that you gathered what you gathered throughout the week, throughout this point, till this point in time right now, now that you know what you know, you got 1 or 2 decisions. That's where the 2 of Wands represents that fire energy making that decision. Which way are you about to go? Especially with the Libra energy and that bringing into balance, which way are you going to go? You've been sitting right here like, I don't want to go. If I go this way, then this might happen. I'm going to lose family. If I go this way, I'm going to lose my girl. If I go this way, I'm going to lose my boyfriend. If I go this way, I'm going to lose my mother. If I go this way, I'm going to lose this. Okay. The only other choice is to keep holding on to those things and then still maintaining that identity. You got 1 or 2 choices. One choice is going to help you maintain those identities. And the other choice is going to give you your true strength. You're not going to find any strength where you were just at. It's done over there. The only thing you're going to gain over there is the same shit. The same holidays, the same holidays, the same arguments, the same fights, the same bullshit that you dealt with last time. You're going to keep fucking up your own value. You're going to keep fucking up your own buying power. You're going to keep acquiring this debt, this karmic debt, and you'll keep doing the same fucking shit. Why would you want to keep doing the same shit? Change the behavior. Change the behavior. It's time to change the behavior. And that's represented in that earthing or that grounding yourself in the new opportunity, grounding yourself in your new abundant energy. As we see the peacock's feathers, everything is in bloom. You got one or two decisions, everything's in bloom. And here's the tricky part about everything being in bloom with your decision. You can make the decision to go back over there. Go ahead. The only things that are going to re-bloom or repollinate in that broom or in that space is going to be the same shit that you saw before. You're just not going to be more aware of it. And then you're going to be like, God damn, stop trying to change things. I tell people this shit all the time. You can't change individuals. You cannot make them come to where you at. This is not meant. If it's not meant for them to go there, it's not meant for them to go there. Stop trying to hold on to that relationship based on if I do this, this, and this, I remain the shadow of what they want. All you doing is killing yourself. I'm gonna pull one more card. Last card, that Knave of Cups. The Knave of Cups represents the aspects of the opportunity to refill your cup. The opportunity to sit there with yourself and fill that cup. Bring yourself into that new position of existence. And you see the wing behind, he got that quill sitting in his, he ready to write that new story. The Knave of Cups represents writing the new story, writing the new book, writing your new story and writing your new book. Where do you want to be at right now? What do you want? Where do you see yourself as? When you see yourself when you see yourself being where you want to be, what feelings come up that you have to deal with? What things come up first? When you think about where you want to be in your life right now, what things pop up? What things pop up? Are there family issues that you got to deal with? The things you got to let go of, things that are not in alignment with you anymore, things that you got to be like, you know what? For where I'm going now, you can't go. That's going to be your key. That's your key aspect for yourself. Best card in that shit. How are you writing your new story? How are you writing your new story? Everything that you're doing right now in the space where you at right now is based on now. There is no more of this, well, all we got to do is wait until we die, then we can get, no. Everything you're supposed to be doing is right now. Barbara Panda broke that down in the one of the last lectures. You got to do that shit now. This shit ain't based on, you can't keep that same mindset of once we get rid of the cracker, we can really start doing work. They're always going to be there. Once my mother admits what she did to me 18 years ago, then I actually start doing my work. Your mother's never going to leave that position. Once my sister and my brother want to have a conversation about what happened to us when we were little and what we dealt with, then I can start this work. They're not meant for that purpose. They're not meant for it. So stop trying to make them that. Stop trying to make them match so you can keep the same old identity. Stop that shit. You are writing your own story now. You're writing your own book. You're writing your own story. And I want you to be the best. What about that? And I want you to be the best. I want you to exceed. I want you to go into I want you to be the best. I desire you to be the best. I desire you to transform. I desire you to go through the state of metamorphosis. I desire you to change. I desire you to invoke all of your greatness. But it's going to, true greatness is based in your authenticity. Do not try to be what something else needs you to be in order for them to be comfortable. Your growth makes them uncomfortable. That's great. That's what it's supposed to do. My growth was not supposed to make anybody comfortable. It's supposed to make motherfuckers uncomfortable. It's supposed to make motherfuckers challenge themselves. That's where I'm at. And that's where I'm going to continue to be. I've never felt better. It's always been lit. I'm not a slave to my emotions. I'm not a slave to shit anymore. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep growing. I'm going to keep doing what the fuck I need to do. That's your point. Either they're going to fall or they're going to rise. Either you going to heal or you going to repeat. Be the best. But I appreciate you for stopping through, grabbing onto the lesson. Even though we had those, there weren't even technical difficulties. Those are just aspects to challenges to see if I was, every time that's happened, because we've noticed that it's happened for a little while, it ain't going to stop us. Allow nothing to stop you. I could have easily used that as an example. I could have easily, every time that the shit do not allow me to, it don't go live when it's supposed to, the chat fuck up or some shit fuck up, I could have said, you know what, fuck it. And I could have blamed it on the white man. I could have blamed it on YouTube not wanting me to be great. I could have blamed it on some shit. But no, I sat here, I refreshed everything, dropped the new in, didn't allow it to stop my flow, and I dropped what I needed to drop and did that down, dropped that download, put it out there what I needed to do. Nothing is going to stop you not unless you allow it. If something is stopping you, you have to check yourself. Check within you and check your environment and check your space. Does it match where you're going or is it based on what you were? I love you. We love us. Ashe.